Hello everyone and welcome back to Dreadline Stories. I know many of you use these videos to fall asleep, so before you drift off, I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. I don't remember exactly when things started to feel wrong. Maybe it was the second morning I found my keys in the freezer. Or maybe it was earlier, like when my dog refused to go near the hallway, barking at nothing until she nearly choked herself on her collar. At first, I blamed work stress. I'd just switched jobs, relocated from Chicago to a sleepy suburb in Indiana, and was renting this older two-bedroom place near the woods. It had charm, sure, a sunroom, hardwood floors, the kind of creaky personality you'd expect from a home built in the 50s, but nothing that screamed trouble. Until the whispering started. It was always at night, just low enough to make me question whether I was hearing anything at all. Like someone trying not to wake you, but failing on purpose. I live alone, and that's just where it begins. I glanced back in the rearview mirror one last time before turning onto the gravel road. My phone had lost signal 10 minutes ago, and the GPS had frozen with that spinning blue dot stuck like a lost soul in purgatory. It was dusk now, the sun dipping just beneath the jagged tree line, casting long, stretched shadows across the forest that pressed in around me. Every few feet, my headlights caught something that looked vaguely like a person. Just trees, branches bent unnaturally, playing tricks. That's what I kept telling myself. The rental car crunched slowly forward over the gravel. I had followed the directions handwritten on the back of a bar napkin. A napkin passed to me by a man I met in a diner off Route 8. Who spoke with a stammer and eyes that never quite focused. He told me not to go looking for this place, but when he realized I wasn't going to leave him alone until he talked, he scribbled down a crude map with shaking hands, muttering, "It's not the house that gets you, it's the space around it." At the time, I thought he was just some burned-out drifter. I even chuckled on my way out of the diner, folding the napkin into my wallet like a souvenir. A joke, a myth, a bit of Americana to tell friends about. I didn't understand what he meant until I crossed the threshold, but by then the space around it already had me. I reached the clearing. The trees broke like parted curtains, revealing a patch of earth too smooth, too perfect. No birds. No wind, just silence, heavy and absolute. My car came to a soft stop and I killed the engine. There it stood. Not a mansion, not a ruin. Just a modest two-story house with chipped gray paint and dark windows that reflected nothing. Not even me. I don't remember walking to the porch. That's the first thing that unsettled me. One moment I was gripping the steering wheel, hesitant, and the next, my hand was on the rusted knob of the front door, heart thumping like I'd run a mile. My brain couldn't fill in the in-between, as though the world had clipped a scene from my own life. Still, I stepped in. The door creaked open without resistance. I didn't knock. I didn't announce myself. The air inside hit me like a blast of stillness. Cool but stale, and carrying that faint, acidic smell of damp plaster and something older beneath it. There was furniture, a low sofa draped in a white sheet, a small wooden table set with dusty porcelain cups. A rug in the center of the room looked untouched, like no one had walked across it in decades. I should have left then. Every instinct screamed at me, but curiosity is a drug, and I was already high on it. I set up my camera near the fireplace. That was the plan. Record the interior, do some quick walkthroughs for the article I was writing. The Last Houses of Forgotten America. That was the title. This place wasn't even on a map. The perfect mystery. A viral gold mine. But when I pressed record, nothing happened. The red light blinked, then cut off. I tried again. Same thing. I checked the battery. Full. Lens clean. The camera refused to film inside the house. That's when I heard it. A dragging sound, faint and deliberate, from upstairs, like someone moving something heavy across wood. I stood frozen, staring up at the ceiling, watching flakes of plaster drift down. Probably an animal, I whispered. Raccoons, maybe. I didn't believe that, but I wanted to. I took a breath and slowly moved toward the staircase. Each step groaned under my weight, as though remembering its purpose after a long, empty slumber. The second floor was darker, colder. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Geometry skewed, like the house bent space to confuse intruders. Doors lined both sides, each one slightly ajar, just enough to hint that something might be waiting behind them. I picked the door at the end. I still don't know why. Inside was a child's bedroom. Wallpaper peeled like curling fingers from the walls. A small wooden bed sat beneath a window that looked out into nothing. Just an empty black void where the forest should have been. On the bed lay a doll. Porcelain, cracked. Its eyes had been gouged out, leaving two gaping pits filled with what looked like tiny human teeth. I backed out of the room slowly. Then the door slammed shut behind me. Hard. I ran. Or I tried to. But the hallway had changed. Where the stairs once were, there was now a wall. A wall covered in mirrors that didn't show my reflection. Instead, they showed rooms. Rooms I hadn't seen. A basement filled with cages. A bathroom with blood dripping from the faucet. A closet where a girl stood, back turned, whispering over and over, "Don't let it hear you breathe." I slammed my fists against the mirrors. I shouted. Nothing moved. No sound came out. My voice had vanished. I was in the house, but I wasn't in the world anymore. That was only the first night. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, listening to the faint hum of silence, haunted by that distorted voice. By morning, I convinced myself it must have been a fluke, a freak electrical glitch. Maybe the tower picked up interference. Maybe someone was messing around with an old CB radio nearby. Still, something about the man's voice stuck with me. Not just the sound of it, but the way it had known my name. I went to work like normal. The tower crew I worked with didn't notice anything off about me. At least, they didn't say anything. But I was off. Unsettled, distracted. Like something was watching me, even in broad daylight. I kept glancing toward the tree line near the station. The trees had never felt threatening before. Now they looked still. Too still. That evening I returned to the shack with a plan. I was going to record everything on the radio just in case the voice came back. I set up my digital recorder, checked all the frequencies, and made sure I had plenty of batteries. The first few hours were uneventful. Wind reports, a few minor tremors from a nearby fault line. Standard stuff. I kept glancing at the receiver, waiting. Then, at 2:17 a.m., the static returned. It didn't start with a crackle. It was like the air in the room suddenly bent. The lights dimmed slightly and the receiver gave a low electronic growl. "Hello, operator," the voice said again, this time clearer. I froze. He continued. "I found you again. There's something you left open." I didn't answer. "I need your help. I've waited so long and the gates don't close on their own." My mouth went dry. "The gates?" "I don't know what you mean," I finally whispered, not sure if I was responding to the radio or to the silence. The voice replied slowly, like he was choosing his words. You turned it on. You made the link. The tower is the key. I reached over and turned the radio off. Silence. Cold, pressing silence. The next morning, the static was gone. So was my recorder. I'd left it next to the receiver, but now it was missing. No signs of forced entry, no tracks outside. Nothing. I told myself I must have misplaced it, but deep down, I knew better. I always thought peace and quiet would be the death of me. After years of chasing chaos, late nights in downtown radio stations, a string of failed relationships, and more burned bridges than I cared to admit, I finally did what everyone said I should. I slowed down, moved out of the city, found a quiet cabin by a lake upstate. No neighbors for miles, just pine trees, cold, foggy mornings, and the faint hum of wildlife. I even started running a small amateur radio setup again. Nothing serious, just scanning frequencies, chatting with the few voices scattered across the band, and keeping myself company. Some people knit, some fish. I tune into static. But something changed one night. It was just past midnight. The kind of night where the wind doesn't blow, the crickets hold their breath, and you start to feel the weight of the quiet. I was sipping from a chipped mug of stale coffee, flipping through stations on my transceiver, not really expecting anything. That's when I landed on a signal I hadn't heard before. It wasn't a voice. Not really. It was a tone. Low, rhythmic, almost like sonar, but distorted, wrapped in static and layered with something that sounded wet. At first, I thought it might be a buoy signal from the coast, but I checked. There's no maritime activity within 150 miles of where I live. The lake outside my cabin isn't even deep enough for boats, let alone equipment capable of transmitting that strongly. I logged the frequency. 146.430 megahertz. The next night it came back. Same time, same signal. Only this time, it wasn't alone. Buried under that droning tone was something else. A faint whisper, barely perceptible. I had to crank up the gain and isolate frequencies to make it out. And even then, I wasn't sure I wanted to hear what it was saying. It was my name. Derek. Clear as day. Over and over, like the signal was calling out to me. Now I've hallucinated a few times in my life, once from sleep deprivation during finals week, another time after taking allergy meds on an empty stomach, but this wasn't that. I recorded the signal, played it back the next morning, still there, still whispering, still calling my name. I tried rationalizing it. Maybe someone nearby found my call sign online and was messing with me, but I never used my real name over the air, ever. No one knew I was here. I made sure of that, and that was just the beginning. About a week after the first signal, I started noticing something in the lake. It began with the fish, or rather the lack of them. The few times I fished off the dock, I came back empty-handed. No bites, no movement, nothing. Then came the diver. It was early morning. Fog still hung low over the water like stretched cotton. I was sipping my second coffee of the day when I saw him, half-submerged, black wetsuit, just his head visible above the surface. No boat nearby, no equipment, just him floating completely still. I called out. No response. I grabbed my binoculars. His face was hidden behind a mask, but I could tell he was watching me, staring. He didn't move, didn't wave, didn't call back, just hovered in the water like something dead that hadn't realized it was supposed to sink. When I blinked, he was gone, vanished, no ripples, no sound. I convinced myself it was a trick of the fog, a reflection, maybe even a bird low over the water that my brain turned into a man. That night, the signal came back stronger, and the whispering had changed. He sees you. I started recording everything. Old habits from my radio days kicked in. I rigged up an automatic logger, set it to record every instance the signal popped up. I spent hours analyzing the waveforms, trying to decode it, looking for hidden patterns. I even built a crude spectrogram to map out the frequencies visually. That's when I found something I still can't explain. The signal wasn't constant. It pulsed in intervals, like Morse code, but not quite. It wasn't until I reversed the audio that I saw it for what it really was. Screaming. Not digital artifacts, not machine noise. Human. Real. Dozens of voices layered on top of one another, distorted but unmistakable. Some were pleading, others were shrieking. A few were laughing. And in the middle of it all was me. One clip chilled me more than anything I've ever heard in my life. It was my voice, screaming in terror. I recognized it immediately. I wasn't just terrified in that clip. I was dying, but I'd never said those words, never made those sounds. Not yet. The knocking returned the next night, this time louder. I was in bed, half asleep, when the echo pulsed through the hallway, followed by that same dragging noise. But this time, it stopped right outside my bedroom door. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to know. But I had to. I crept to the door, every muscle in my body stiff with fear, and placed my eye against the keyhole. Nothing. But when I opened the door, the hallway was freezing, the same cold that had taken my breath away in the woods. And on the floor, as clear as anything I've ever seen, was a smear of mud and water, leading from the stairs to my door. It was like something had crawled, or dragged itself, through the house. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I told myself I imagined it all. The muddy trail, the knocks, the cold air in the hallway. Lack of sleep can do strange things to the mind. That's what I kept telling myself. But then I checked the security camera I'd installed on a whim the week I moved in. A single motion event had been recorded the night before, right around 3:11 a.m. It was only a few seconds long, and the angle wasn't great, mostly just the stairwell from above. But what I saw froze my blood. A shape moved up the stairs. Not a person, not an animal, something twisted, like it was crawling but not quite human. Its limbs were long and bent the wrong way, and its head, if that's what it was, jerked side to side like a broken metronome. It paused just before the frame cut off. That's when it looked directly at the camera, and for a brief flickering second, I saw her face. It was pale, stretched unnaturally long. The eyes were empty pits. The mouth hung open, not in a scream, but in some silent, eternal expression of shock. And then the video glitched, distorted, and ended. I tried replaying it. Nothing. The file corrupted after that final frame. No backup. I packed a bag. I told myself I'd leave, find a hotel, figure out what was happening from a safe distance. But the house didn't want me to go. As I grabbed my keys and opened the front door, a loud crack split the air behind me. One of the overhead light fixtures had fallen and shattered just inches from where I'd been standing moments ago. Then every door in the hallway slammed shut in perfect succession. Bang, 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 as if the house was sealing me in. And somewhere upstairs, I heard her humming again, that same nursery rhyme melody. Only this time, it was slower, drawn out, like it was meant for me. It started with static. Not the kind you get from a bad signal or a scratched up cassette. This was something else. Something intentional. I was driving home from a late night shift at the gas station. The road was dead silent as usual, just a ribbon of cracked pavement stretching between cornfields and woods. It's the kind of place where even the streetlights seemed to give up halfway through the night. I was half awake, flipping through the FM dial, trying to find something, anything, to keep me company. The usual stations were there, of course. Top 40 garbage, a few preachy sermons, country twang echoing off empty fields. But then I hit something strange. 98.3 FM. Just static at first, hissing, crackling. But there was something buried in it. A pattern, a rhythm. I turned up the volume, and then I heard it. A voice, low, garbled, speaking in some slow, raspy cadence like it was pushing words through a throat filled with broken glass. I couldn't make out what it was saying at first. I thought maybe it was another preacher caught halfway between frequencies, but the tone, God, the tone was wrong. It wasn't meant for the airwaves. It was talking to someone, and not someone listening casually on a car stereo. It was like it was whispering straight into my skull. I should have changed the station. I should have shut it off and driven home. But I didn't. I listened. You're close now. Don't stop. Keep driving. We're waiting. That's what it said, clear as day, and I damn near veered off the road. I slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop on the gravel shoulder. My heart was hammering so loud I thought it would burst through my chest. The voice had stopped, just static again. I waited. 10 seconds. 20. A full minute. Nothing. And then I noticed something. There were no crickets, no wind, not even the hum of my engine, just a ringing silence that pressed against my eardrums like pressure at the bottom of a lake. I checked my phone. No signal. Dead. Every bar gone. My GPS? Frozen. The map showed a blank screen with a red dot pulsing in the center. My location. But no roads, no names, just white. And that voice had said, "We're waiting." I don't know what compelled me to keep driving. Maybe it was morbid curiosity. Maybe it was something else. Something pushing me from behind the veil of that signal. I shifted the car back into gear and rolled forward, the headlights cutting swaths into the tall corn on either side. That's when I saw it. Up ahead, a radio tower, tall, skeletal, and pulsing with a soft red light that blinked once every few seconds. There was no access road, no fence, no buildings around it. Just the tower standing alone in a clearing, like it had grown out of the ground itself. And the static on 98.3 was getting louder. The closer I got, the more it resolved into words. Names, dates, mine, my birthday, my mother's maiden name, the street I grew up on. It was reciting everything about me in that dry, whispering tone, like it was peeling back my identity layer by layer. I slammed the power button on the radio, but it kept playing, even with the unit off. The dial was blank, no station selected, but the voice kept going. "You've arrived," it said, and my engine died. I sat there, in the middle of the road, headlights flickering, radio muttering in a dead car, with a red beacon pulsing slowly in the distance like a heartbeat. That's when I noticed the figure, standing in the field beside the tower. No flashlight, no movement, just standing, watching. I don't know how long we stared at each other. It could have been minutes, could have been an hour. And then more of them appeared, one by one, silhouettes, dozens of them, all facing the road, all facing me. I locked the doors, not that it would do anything. My instincts were screaming to run, to leave the car, to get out. But my legs wouldn't move. It was like the air had thickened around me, trapping me in a bubble of dread. Then they started walking, slow, steady, in unison, right toward me. I tried the ignition, nothing. I tried again, still dead. I banged the steering wheel and screamed, and that's when the voice returned. This time from the speakers behind my seat. "You can't run," it said. "You turned in." That's how it begins. The first figure reached the car and placed its hand to the window. It was a woman, I think. Her skin was long, smooth like plastic, eyes blank and mouth stitched closed with rusted wire. Behind her, the others fanned out around the car. They weren't people, not anymore. They were receivers, and I tuned to their frequency. That's when the glass cracked. Hairline
another hand touched the window, and the others began to do the same, slamming their palms onto the car, moaning without mouths, the sound somehow transmitting directly into my head.
And then everything went black. I woke up in my driveway, no idea how I got there. Car intact, phone still dead, radio silent. I rushed inside and locked every door and window. For 3 days I didn't leave, didn't eat, didn't sleep. And then the voice came back, not through the car this time, through the television, even though it was off. "You're part of the broadcast now," it said.